Vacant Hearts, The Ballad of Sid and Nancy. Chapter 1. Fractured Beginnings. Nancy, Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, 1974. Nancy Spungen stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, the fluorescent light casting harsh shadows across her face. At 17, she'd already lived more than most people twice her age, or at least that's what she told herself. Her bleached blonde hair stuck out in uneven chunks where she'd hacked at it with kitchen scissors the night before. "Nancy, you've been in there for 45 minutes!" Her mother's voice, strained with familiar exasperation, cut through the door. "Fuck off!" Nancy shouted back, her throat raw from screaming at her parents the night before. She popped another Quaalude, washing it down with lukewarm vodka from a plastic bottle hidden in her purse. The banging on the door continued. "Your father needs to get ready for work!" Nancy rolled her eyes and gathered her makeup, stuffing it back into her bag. She yanked the door open to face her mother, Deborah, tired, defeated, the woman who'd taken her to psychiatrists since she was 11, who'd watched her daughter transform from a brilliant but troubled child into something unrecognizable. "Happy now?" Nancy pushed past her, intentionally bumping her shoulder. Deborah grabbed Nancy's arm. "Where do you think you're going? You're still grounded from last week." Nancy pulled away violently. "I'm going out, and you can't fucking stop me." Her voice was flat, devoid of the emotion that might suggest she cared at all about the consequences. This was the 100th version of this same argument. They all ended the same way, with Nancy walking out, her mother crying, and her father retreating further into silence. In her bedroom, Nancy pulled on ripped fishnet stockings under a black miniskirt. The Quaalude was taking effect, making her movements languid and her thoughts fuzzier around the edges. That was better. That was always better. Music blasted from her record player. The New York Dolls. Nancy closed her eyes, swaying slightly, imagining herself far away from this suffocating suburban prison. New York. That's where she belonged, with the freaks and the weirdos and the people who understood that this world was fucked beyond repair. Not here with her genius little brother, who her parents adored, her perfect younger sister, and the crushing weight of being Nancy Spungen, the girl who'd been kicked out of college before even finishing high school, the girl who'd already tried to kill herself twice, the girl the neighbours whispered about. "What are we going to do with her?" She heard her father's defeated voice from the hallway. Nancy grabbed her leather jacket and the small bag containing everything she needed: drugs, money she'd stolen from her mother's purse, and a switchblade she'd bought from a boy at school. She climbed out the window, the same way she'd been escaping for years. The drugs made her feel invincible as she hitchhiked to the city. In Philadelphia, she knew people, men who wanted things from her, women who shared her disdain for everything normal. She'd crash on a couch, find some pills, maybe turn a trick if she needed cash. Then New York. Definitely New York soon. Nancy Spungen was nobody in Pennsylvania, but she knew, with the absolute conviction of youth and damaged brilliance, that she was meant for something else, something that would make them all remember her name. Sid, London, 1974. John Simon Ritchie, not yet Sid Vicious, woke up on the floor of a squat in Hampstead, his head pounding with the residual effects of whatever he'd taken the night before. Sunlight streamed through the dirty window, illuminating the squalor around him: empty bottles, cigarette butts, torn magazines and sleeping bodies. He sat up slowly, wincing at the pain in his temples. His stomach growled, but the thought of food made him nauseous. John rubbed his eyes, trying to remember how he'd ended up here. The last clear memory was leaving his mum's place after another explosive argument. Something about the men she brought home, something about money gone missing. "Oi, Johnny, you're alive then." A voice came from across the room where Keith, a friend, sort of, was rolling a joint at a table covered in anarchist pamphlets and beer stains. "Barely," John muttered, his voice hoarse. He ran a hand through his dark hair, greasy from days without washing. "What time is it?" Keith shrugged. "Dunno, afternoon maybe?" John pulled himself up, stepping carefully over a girl he vaguely recognized from the night before. The squat was one of several he rotated between. No fixed address, no fixed future. At 17, he existed in a state of perpetual motion, propelled by anger and boredom in equal measure. London in 1974 was a decaying empire. Unemployment soaring, strikes crippling the country, the promise of the 60s shattered into disillusionment. For working-class kids like John, prospects were grim, but in that grimness, something was stirring, a movement that would give voice to their rage. "You seen John lately?" John asked, referring to John Lydon, a mate with strange eyes and stranger ideas who'd started calling himself Johnny Rotten. "Yeah, he's hanging with that Malcolm bloke, the one with the shop on King's Road." John nodded, remembering the sex shop run by Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood, a beacon for misfits and malcontents like himself. He'd spend hours there, not buying anything, he never had money, but soaking in the atmosphere of rebellion. "Think I'll head over there later," John said, more to himself than to Keith. He needed to find something to eat first, and maybe nick some coins for the tube. His stomach knotted with hunger as he pulled on his boots. The soles were wearing thin, but the steel toes were perfect for the fights that seemed to find him wherever he went. Outside, London sprawled before him, dirty, dangerous, and thrumming with possibility. John moved through it like a ghost, invisible to the businessmen and tourists, but recognised by others like him, the forgotten youth of England, gathering strength in the shadows. He had no idea that across an ocean, a blonde hurricane of a girl was setting her sights on the same world he inhabited. No idea that in a few years' time, they would collide with the force of two dying stars, creating a supernova that would consume them both. For now, John Simon Ritchie was just hungry, angry, and looking for somewhere to belong.